Hey, how's it going, guys? Episode number 4 of Strength with a Purpose. I'm DeMarco.
I'm Sean.
And we are here to talk about the press today. So we're going to discuss previous elements that we did before with the clean. Obviously, this is going to be the vehicle to the press. And the nice thing is you guys are probably noticing a pattern here. The movements we discussed prior build into the next thing that we do. And it's going to get really serious when Sean runs us through the deep six. And I'm going to be huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf and trying not to die. So, but it's going to be fun. So, but yeah, so we're going to talk about the press today. And just like we did last time when we discussed the squat, we're going to go single and double bell and pass it over to my man, Mr. Sean Brown.
All right, so as Marco just mentioned, the press, we'll do single bell first. So I'm just going to kick one out. So he wants to set it up just like you would for the clean that we discussed a couple weeks ago and the squat, because the press will be set up by the press and the squat will be set up by the clean. So even though you can still get a pretty solid squat out of a sloppy clean, you don't want to rely on that because the heavier you go, the more perfect the clean has to be essentially. So given this is a weight that he can probably squat and or press 500 times, he still wants to treat it like this bell is triple the weight, you know what I mean? So he's going to clean it up to the rack position, keeping it tight to the body. So he establishes the rack position, it's nice and tight. You want to kind of act like that elbow is kind of super glued into your side. So from here, he's going to step towards the bell, unless he likes that particular foot placement. You definitely don't want to be too wide with it, but it's kind of preference at that point once you're kicking in a little bit. You always want to step towards the bell, not away from it. So from here, he's just going to do a couple trigger points. We won't get too into it as far as like all the trigger points you can use to help for a better press. But the ones that I like the most, I suppose, would be he's going to clench his fist on the opposite side. That actually creates a trigger response on the other fist that'll kind of help grip the bell a little bit better. It also jacks up his the offside a little bit to kind of keep yourself a little bit symmetrical. So I also want him to squeeze his glutes and lock his knees. So another good cue for that is kind of like pull your kneecaps up. You know, whatever cue works for you as far as getting you to actually turn on that and activate what we're trying to do. So from here, he's basically going to punch towards the ceiling. He's going to press that bell up. Good. Notice the exhale, of course, and then he's going to inhale through the nose on the way down. Not only does that let you take that air back in, of course, because you just use it on the way up, it makes you go down slow and controlled. You know, you don't want to come down too fast because that could throw off the next press. And notice how he has a hammer fist at the bottom, like this. Forearms nice and vertical, and then it's also stacked over the hip. And toward the top, when he presses, he rotates. Good. So it's not that hard to time it out, but you definitely want to get in the habit of rotating towards the top. Good. So he's exhaling up and inhaling through the nose on the way down. Good. All right, set it down real quick so we do some double bell. So, if he does X amount of presses, say 10 presses on the left side, obviously we try to do that on the right. Bloody has natural imbalances, so he'll probably notice, not with a 14 because it's very light, but 24, 20 maybe, that his strong side, which I believe is his left, could probably yield more presses than the right side. We won't get too in depth on it, but like the push press is a good way to try to break through that, because like if he can only hit 10 on his left for 24, but only hits like 7 on his right, he could try to push press through those last 3 until eventually 7 strict presses can become 8, and then the last 2 will push press, and then eventually hopefully try to even out those sides. But then at that point, maybe his left side is now up to 12 presses with a 24. You want to try to do this unilateral training to try to get the body to balance out as far as the asymmetries we have. But because otherwise one side is probably going to be chasing that other side for quite a while. You don't want the difference to be that big, but doing single bell stuff will hopefully help you try to get as symmetrical as possible. Do you have anything to add to that?
Just a couple things. So I'm sure most of you guys know what a push press is, but if anybody doesn't know what it is, typically like when you hit a sticking point, like Sean said, you'll use your legs and hips to help you drive the weight up. It's a good way, like you said, to bust through that sticking point and be able to balance out the reps on each side. So that's basically what a push press is. And then I think you mentioned this, but I just want to be clear on this. So we talked about the rack position last time, about how when you're cleaning the kettlebell up, for men, hands are going to be in here, thumb can come back and touch the collarbone, the head of the clavicle, versus females going to be a little bit further outside. Notice how that's your rack position. As I walk the bell in, I'm gonna slowly come to vertical so that I can go straight up with it. Versus here, then I gotta bring it out, then I gotta press with it. So it's just a nice one thing you can work on. Once you clean it up, step it in, vertical, get tight.
So his core is tight,
From
from using
there.
that fist to, again, create that trigger response on the actual bell side. He squeezes his glutes because that gives you a nice solid base to press from. This is known as a strict press that we've been talking about this whole time. The push press is it's not one of the 6 main movements that we've been going over. I think we're on movement 4 now, so that's not one of the main ones. But it's a good way, like we had just said, to try to break through those plateaus when you're stuck on one side, chasing the reps you just hit on the other side. So definitely beneficial to get used to the push press. It's not that difficult by any means. You almost initiate a squat in a sense, so you kind of sit back on the heels a little, just to get a little knee bend, and then when you drive through the heels, it allows the bell to go up a little bit easier than usual. If you took it a step further with a squat thruster, again, I don't want to go too in depth on it, but a squat thruster would be basically a press coming from a whole squat, so you get the depth of your squat, and then now you have so much momentum coming up to throw that bell up.
Yeah.
But again, the strict press is what we're trying to aim for here, so that was just a couple ways to show you how you could break through a plateau on your side that isn't as strong as your strongest side. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, all you mean.
So the double press, that's a good way to switch up as well, because now you have 2 bells, double the weight. In my own experience, I believe the double clean is a little bit easier than the single clean, because now the body doesn't have to worry about being lopsided in a sense. But you do need a little bit more hip drop. That's the thing. So he's going to clean the bells up. So he's going to take a wider stance because there's 2 bells, so they need enough room to pass through. And then I would definitely suggest stepping in a little bit because there's 2 bells this time. Doesn't matter which way you step. Good. All right. So that's a comfortable spot for him. He's going to lock up those legs to give that solid base to press from. Notice how we split the bells this way. They're on their own side. And then from here, he can go do many different kinds of presses. So he's just going to press both at one time. Notice the rotation, coming back down to that hammer fist for forearm. Okay, this next one, I'm going to have him just press one of them. Brings it back down. So you can alternate if you want to switch things up. Next, I'm going to have him press both. And then he's going to leave the right one and do a couple in a row on his left. You could also alternate off the top of this one if you wanted, or if you want to get a little bit more isometric work, leave that one bell, perform maybe 6 presses, for example, on one side, and then you would swap them and go from there. There's so many different ways to vary the press, so the body just doesn't get used to one kind of pressing, one kind of weight, one kind of rep, all that kind of stuff. So, and from here, you just step it back out, nice and wide again, and then dump the bells. Anything to add to that?
No. One thing that you guys can do, Sean mentioned earlier about when we're doing we're doing a single arm press, how squeezing the other fist generates more tension, irradiation, something we'll get into more in the future when we cover deadlifts and other movements like that where we need even more tension. Not to say you don't need it here, but when we start getting into more advanced stuff. But one thing that I do when the bells start getting heavier, one thing that helps you, this will help with a press with kettlebells overhead, a bench press, anything you're pressing, squeeze the bells, and you're going to get that increased tension. Your forearm muscles are going to light up. It's going to give you increased strength because you're going to be activating more muscle fibers and more motor units. In addition to that, you're also going to be putting your wrists in a more stable position. I think one of the best things I ever read in a fitness magazine was lift weights like you're about to punch somebody in the face and get in a fight. And sounds kind of vulgar, but what it really means is you don't want to be here or here at the wrist. You want to be here, nice and strong, and that's going to prevent you from getting any kind of unnecessary overuse injuries, like carpal tunnel syndrome and other issues like that. Right. So wrist position is critical, especially when the weight starts going up.
Yeah, you don't want to get strong in vulnerable positions because then your body's almost going to morph into that essentially. Like a lot of people you see who do things with an arched back, it could be because they have anterior pelvic tilt, and again, I'm not trying to throw too much science at you guys, but that's when when the core is completely disengaged.
Donald Duck butt weird.
Exactly. Yeah. Butt sticking out, chest is up. If you're walking like that throughout the day, that's just probably a worse example of like if you were trying to press out here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're not going to have as many issues doing this as if you have that arch in your back all the time, but similar idea. And then going off the irradiation that you just mentioned earlier, again, another kind of big science word, but squeezing the glutes and locking up those knees is an example of that, because you're involving more of your body into a press or just a movement in general that otherwise probably wouldn't even involve lower body. So if if you're jacking up your legs, core's engaged, you're gonna have your strongest press. Take out one of those things, this press isn't gonna be as strong. So you may still be able to lift the weight, but not for as many reps as you would be able to if you had everything engaged and locked in. So.
Absolutely, and I'm going to say the exact same thing I said in the last video. Don't ego lift. Learn how to do this the right way, and start with a light weight. Check your ego at the door. Learn how to do it right. Then you can progress and do so safely. And when you get to the heavier weights on the strict press, you'll be doing them right, and you won't hurt yourself. So that's what we really want to focus on, is doing the movements well. I know you just said this. I like the way you put it. You said don't train in a compromised position, vulnerable position.
Vulnerable position.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, don't. Yeah, and it's true. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're going to get hurt. Overuse injury. Like you said, the not ideal types of adaptations. Because I'm sure we've all seen people in the gym. The older lifters have been doing the same workout for decades, and they can do a deadlift in that rounded back position. They don't ever seem to get hurt. It's kind of one of those, like they're walking the tightrope, but they've been doing it so long, their bodies have adapted to that. That doesn't mean it's the right way. That just means that their bodies have adapted to it. So, so that's our big thing here. We want to teach you guys how to do it right. So, just like you taught me.
Yep.
So,
want to be able to move your body just as well as you can when you're 75 as when you're 25. So if you learn early, get after it, you'll set yourself up for a healthy lifestyle. Ideally, your whole life. So,
absolutely, yeah, good stuff. Anything else to add about the press or anything like that?
Just kind of driving home that point again about the clean may not seem like it's that necessary now, but when you get fatigued and you start to try to do heavier weights for either the press or the squat, the clean becomes that much more important, of course. Like for one, if you can't clean a set of heavy bells up to the rack position for a squat or press, you can't do the movement, obviously. So you need the clean to be nice and tight to the body, all that kind of stuff. You don't want the elbows to kind of fly off or anything like that. But I definitely notice more so the press needing a proper clean more so than the squat. If I had to pick one or the other, because I've never gone for like a 1 rep max squat before, but with a single bell or double bell. But I've gone for presses, and a proper clean will make or break that whatever bell you're trying to chase for that single press.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That exact same thing happened with me when we started training heavier press. I worked up to a certain weight, and with a decent clean, could get the weight up. We tried to go one bell size higher, and if it's not a solid clean, the weight doesn't go up, especially on my non-dominant side. My dominant side, I can usually kind of muscle it out, kind of put a little lateral flexion in there. Not the smartest thing to do, of course. You're exposing yourself to potential injury. But on my non-dominant side, when I have a good solid clean, much greater likelihood that I'm going to get a good strong press and not lose any of that stability in the shoulders on the way up, and not set myself up with a good foundation.
And then just one more thing about the press. So you might see a lot of people sometimes they shift over the hip a little bit to give themselves a little bit more, let's say, it's almost stacked a little bit. That's fine. You'll also see some people kind of side bend a little. That's also okay as long as the side bend doesn't increase as they're pressing. So if they initiate that press and they start to do this the whole time, for the most part, you could hurt yourself, but also that's just not legitimate press. So a little side bend is okay to start, just don't have it increase throughout the duration of the press. So that's just one thing to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. Nice, awesome. And then just we're going into more details here, obviously. One thing I like to do when it's a single bell press, since I'm going to be walking into the kettlebell to set myself up, you can start with a narrower stance, and that just helps you, just eliminates excess movement you have to do. So when I start my feet about shoulder width or maybe even a little bit inside, clean that bell in. All I got to do is go from here to here, versus if I take a normal swing, kettlebell swing stance, clean it in, then I go a little bit further. So it cuts down time and makes it more efficient. So definitely sets you up, just like Sean says, sets you up to be stronger. So it moves the weight better.
I believe it was Master SFG John Engum who said at one of my certifications where I learned this kind of stuff that the key to happiness is pressing heavy things overhead. And I mean, I'm definitely happy when I can do it. So you might as well do it right, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about this is not to tip our hands too much, but in the future we're going to be going over 2 other movements with these next 2 episodes that the great thing is the same position that you're in at the top of your press, that's the top of those 2 movements as well. So you're going to see that carryover. And then like I said, in the future past that, we're going to go into being able to do full body workouts while picking up 1 or 2 kettlebells and doing a bunch of different movements and really getting a good workout. So definitely getting a lot, working on strength and conditioning and getting your best bang for your buck. So definitely. All right. Sean, you got anything else?
All set. I think I racked my brain for all my pressing views.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Well, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys watching and get ready. We're going to be coming out with another episode soon. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. And I'll put the information for where you can find us on social media as well as our fitness website. We post free fitness content all the time. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, like and subscribe. Thank you guys.
Thanks.